over. Hey, Jamie, Steve, shake.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. Hello, everyone. Welcome to what it appears to be the very last office hours of September. October is quickly approaching. Steve, what's going on over there?
Nothing, just enjoying, as we were talking earlier, my new AC. Well, actually, it's a couple of years old, but comes in handy sometimes, even in San Diego.
Oh, it's the Santa Ana time, little heat wave before the official start of winter, if you could call it winter, in that part of the country. So welcome everybody to the last office hours of September. I'm your host, Jamie Hodge. Got Steve Gomez in here with me as well. Got some good stuff for you guys today. A little bit of a, well, you know, we'll get to what the market did here in just a moment. Before we get rolling, I want to take a quick moment to get through the disclaimer. We're all big boys and girls here. So just want to take a moment here to let you know that all the information that we share with you guys in the webinar, whether it be this one or any of the other ones we have coming at you every week, it's for educational purposes only. If you do need investment advice, what to buy, when to do it, when to sell it, all that good stuff, please do yourself a favor, seek out a registered investment advisor or someone like a Series 7 licensed stockbroker that's legally licensed to dispense buy and sell information to you. Once again, everything we share with you guys is for educational purposes only. I'd always like to take a little bit of time at the top of the hour here to talk about the community that we've constructed around the award-winning tech that is TI Pro. And of course, most of you already know about our free trading room hosted by Barry Anderson. A really great place. Doesn't matter if you're a newbie, just starting out trading, or if you're advanced, or anywhere in between. A lot of quality people in there. Could be 300 people, could be 500 people, depending on the day and what's going on out there in the markets. But Barry does a fantastic job at moderating a room and a crowd of that size. Also doesn't mind helping people out, answering questions. He'll showcase the way he uses TI Tech to enhance his trading style. So always a great place to go. And once again, the best thing about it, other than Barry, is the price, which is free. So if you've shopped around and looked for trading rooms to participate in, you know that most of them that are worth their salt are not free, whereas ours is, and it's high quality. So if you haven't been using that resource, by all means, get in there and make use of it. On the Mondays, on the 5 p.m. slot, you get myself and Steve. Steve's going to take the reins for tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern webinar for the trade of the week. Andy Lindloff's going to ride shotgun with him. And then we change it up a little bit. We bring it in our founder and CEO, Dan Merkin, along with our CTO, our Chief Technical Officer, Mr. Brad Williams. Always interesting with those two, typically giving you peeks at new options or new features that might be coming down the pipeline. Andy's going to round out the 5 p.m. Eastern webinars on Thursday with the Trading Studio, and I ride shotgun with him. Of course, our ever popular daily support session every weekday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. A great time to pop in and get any questions answered about TI, whether it's something as simple as a configuration or if it's an advanced topic like auto trading or Poly, the AI, or just anything. Nothing is off the table on the daily support session. On the next screen here, you'll see how to get to that support session. You just go down there to trade-ideas.com/live, bookmark it. That way you can just pop in there easily because this is conducted over YouTube. All right, each and every day, same bat time, same bat channel from 12 p.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern every Monday through Friday. And of course, always like to show how our user base has been expanding over the years. You know, 2014, a couple of years before we launched EAI, and then we've had some nice user growth over the following 4 years, really lighting it on fire this year, probably because of macro circumstances that you're all too painfully familiar with, so I won't go into details on that. But our user base continues to expand, as well as all of the orders being pumped through our Brokerage Plus module, which is currently only compatible with interactive brokers. And you can see the demo orders in orange and the live orders in blue, slowly just increasing month over month over month. Should be an interesting finish up to the year. And even more exciting, keep our fingers crossed. Since Brokerage Plus has only been compatible with IB, hopefully before too long, we will make our first connection to a $0 broker dealer. Those of you using the product know that Interactive Brokers is still charging commission for API-driven orders, which is what Brokerage Plus uses. But hopefully before too long, I hear from the dev department that we've entered into the testing phase for TD Ameritrade. Of course, that still doesn't mean it's going to be ready today, tomorrow, next week, but it is getting closer. And of course, we'll make an announcement once we are able to build that into the production version, but it is getting closer. All right, moving right along here to the topics of the day. Before I get into my stuff, I'm going to pass it on over to Steve, talk about what the markets overall did, what they might do, all that good stuff. So Steve, if you're ready, let's kick it on over to you.
Sure, I'm just giving Edwin and anybody else that wants it. I thought I saved that link. Hang on one second, I'll grab that. A link to the trading room. Supposed to hit copy first. There we go. It's on our website, but there is the direct link. Okay, I'm ready. All right.
All right. Should be to you.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my desktop. You're welcome, Edwin. So I'll talk a little bit about the backdrop, which is really important right now, and there's a lot to talk about this time. You know, if you remember when back here, it was just kind of a broken record. The market just kept staying above its moving averages, and then we broke. And we started to talk about bouncing between, you know, those two moving averages, and they broke again. And but here's where we're starting to get some interesting data, in my opinion. Now, me personally, some of you might have known, I mean, I kind of cleared the decks all but for a few things in my swing account this day back here. No, I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. But last week, I cleared the decks and went to cash because I said, well, boy, it sure seems like this 200-day moving average wants to come into play. Now, here's the funny part. That might not be it. This market just might be so damn strong that we're not going to see it. And it brings up a funny trading axiom. Sometimes it's like Occam's razor, you know, in markets. Sometimes the most obvious thing is not going to happen in the market. And I'm waited for the obvious thing and didn't get it. But now we have a few more days of data and we can look back and it might make perfect sense as to why we're bouncing. So I'll start with the S&P, then we'll get to the juggernaut Nasdaq. So when moving, as you know, I love my moving averages, but I also love pivot levels. And pivot levels, you know, when you start to look at a chart and the price is well between our moving averages up here and our 200 down here, you know, one could call this area no man's land, and who knows what's going to happen. But as we say often, look left, and you start to see a few things. A couple of resistance days here, then resistance here, broke through there, and then it became support, 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 support. So pivot lines can make a big impact when other things are not lining up. And I think in hindsight, we might be looking at that. Now, that's the bull case, you know, all's well. That was the worst case of it. Everybody's happy on the bull side. We'll see. You know, am I going to be playing fear of missing out here next week? I don't know, but here's what I'm looking at. The price action has bounced right up into, and for lack of a better term, I'm going to call this the armpit. All right, you're bouncing right back up into the pocket. The armpit is my new term for it. Some people call it the pocket, but it's the underneath side of breaking these moving averages. So the market's still a little bit guilty until proven innocent. So what I'm going to need to see before, and people asked me in the Discord room today, a lot of newbies in there, they asked about, you know, well, what are you going to want to do and see to get back to be bullish again? I said, well, I'm going to want to see at least a couple of days of close above this 50-day moving average, you know, a day or two, and then I might start looking around and looking for charts that are setting up again and dip my toe back in the water long and realize that, okay, well, maybe I didn't get the perfect entries down here on things, but, you know, it was not really evident in the moment that that was going to be a pivot line. So let's move over to the Nasdaq, because that's really where it's all happening. Nasdaq kind of blew through its 50, and we'll call it in the upper armpit here for the most part of the 20. Now, I looked at the data right as Jamie was speaking. The high today was 77.20. The close, excuse me, right on the highs, actually, right on the screws. The 20-day moving average in red is 277.20. Well, They closed right to the penny away from absolute clean air up here. All right, so the Nasdaq is doing what it does, pushing. It's typically been a day early. It was a day early on the breakdown from moving averages back here, and it might be a day early on a recovery. So I'd like to see the Nasdaq, the leadership stock, here's close day number 1 above the 50. If it can close day 2 above the 20 here, that just might be it, and I might have to start looking for things and not waiting for the perfect pitch and start, getting back in my swing account. And then when we look at the Nasdaq, we can start to see, albeit a bit more messy, but it is still defined. Resistance showed up on that day, kind of on that day, bounced back through, body of the candle there, close there, support there, broke back down there, resistance, broke through and hadn't looked back. So the orange line there is pretty indicative of where I think you would draw a pivot line as well for the Nasdaq. So the real story is technology is, if we haven't figured it out yet, the QQQ is holding the technology, which means a lot of digital companies, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Google, Carvana, things that are, anybody that was smart enough, any company that was smart enough to pivot to online is a tremendous winner. Trade Ideas obviously is a tremendous winner because we're online and we're data driven. Companies like Soup Plantation, they ain't gonna make it. So that's why the Nasdaq is looking much better. And let's just see if we can post another couple closes ahead. And before I give it back to Jamie, on a sector note, the TAN is indicative of the solars. The solars, it doesn't even seem like they had a correction. They never broke their 50. VSLR was a trade of the week a few weeks back, doing tremendously well. First Solar is the workhorse. I'm actually not doing that. I haven't even looked at that one, but nonetheless, there are a lot of interesting solar plays out there. And just remember, you can go to the Insider Similar tab here and start to find solar power and maybe some other laggers that might be looking to break out. As you go through these names, a lot of them you've not heard, but there's some semiconductor stuff in there that have to do with solars as well. So if you're not aware, that's a good looking one. AVGO looks like it's breaking out. The Similar tab is your friend. If you start from the 40,000 foot view of solars and kind of work down from there, that might be where I might start looking. We'll see. All right, unless there's anything I need to address in the question box, Jamie, I'm all done.
I think I answered what needed to be answered here. Yeah, well, let me make sure I'm sorting my questions panel properly.
I see there's some AI questions there. All right.
Right, a couple just now popped in. Let's see here. Now, regarding Dave's question there on the little volume spike there in the last, let's see here, I guess it was the last 30 minutes. A couple of volume spikes there going into the close. Don't really know what that could be. I mean, it could be a variety of different things, Dave. Could be market on close orders, big block orders, things of that nature. Steve, any hypothesis to add to that? I mean, to me, it's always a non-event. I don't try to read too much into those things.
Oh, I was on mute. I'm sorry. I was answering. I was typing into another question as well, so I didn't really hear. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We were just talking about the
trade in not many more than 10 lots. Was that the question?
No, we were just talking about the little volume push on the Qs into the close.
I see. What are your thoughts on the volume? I have a thought. The market is driven by algos and quant funds, and they don't like to take home risk overnight, Dave. So many times, a lot of those end of day moves are just purging up the all day holds and any risk that's being given up by the algos.
Exactly.
The market making machines are going home for the night, and they like to wait and watch each other and wait for the musical chairs.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Parker's asking about personalizing some of the AI settings here. Let's see here. Change the amount of money. I'll tell you what, we're going to do the Holly recap here in just a moment. Let me grab the screen back from Steve real quick here, and we'll get into Holly. All right, so you should have eyes back on my desktop here. And I lost my cheat sheets. Hold on one second. Okay. All right, so interesting day as a whole. All right, if I pull the SPY back up, You can see we had a nice beefy gap up, which, by the way, we all know from experience, anytime there's a gap up, the larger the gap up, typically the more the AI struggles or has, luck finding alpha in such an environment. Today wasn't so bad, but if you didn't take the cookies while they were being passed, they didn't stick around for very much longer. Plate comes around, there was just crumbs left, and that seemed to be the case with trades today, regardless of whether or not they were long or short. Longs got in the money, but if you didn't take them, they gravitated back down to their entry points. So here with Holly, if everybody takes note at the All Trades blotter, usually what I like to do is showcase the ones that did have a little bit of follow through in them and figuring out how we could have profited from that by looking at the end of day values between conservative profit and moderate profit. Specifically looking for totals that are larger over here in the moderate profit column than what we see in conservative. But guess what? You don't see any of those today. PXD was looking good, but then it gave back a little bit towards the close. So if we take a look at that one, you can see it was up nicely from when Holly got out here with the sell arrow. We were up here, but eventually capitulated back down. So that's why we're not seeing any spread between conservative profit and moderate profit today. Not only that, but typically I also like to talk about ones that were good add-on candidates, right? Okay, this one's strong, it's working. This would have been a great spot to add to that trade. But once again, not really present in today's trading blotter due to the market environment. And lastly, I'd like to talk about trade arounds, okay? Things that perhaps went down to their stop areas, and the stop area acted as a nice pivot point, okay? But we just didn't see a whole lot of that today. EW getting close to its stop area, but not really getting down to the stop area until the very last part of the day. A lot of the times earlier in the day, if the stock does get stopped out or comes very close to its stop area, we can see if that area is going to act as a pivot point. But we can only report on what happened today. And none of those things were present. So we didn't have conservative moderate spread. We did not have any good examples of adding to a position from a Holly play, and we didn't have any trade arounds today. So, that's why conservative mode won out today, and that was really the best way to be. To help illustrate that even further, I just wanted to show you guys a quick snapshot of my Brokerage Plus window, which I had all the Holly strats automated today, and we can see we got off to a bang up start here. Okay, so between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions where I was risking $100 per position and letting the system get me into as many shares as that would allow, we did get up a little over $300 today. But if you didn't take it, it was right back down to zero. And this is kind of where the max profit column comes into play today, because each and every one of these trades, you had good profit potential, all right? The smallest one being the IR trade only got up a max of $12.34. But hey, that's half the battle. That's the first hurdle that we always have to get over when making a trade is, did we ever make it into the money, okay? So today, perfect testament to conservative winning out over taking any additional risk. Bottom line, there just wasn't a whole lot of follow through today in the Holly plays. And I could apply that statement to the general market until we start talking about the higher volume stocks. A little bit different of a story there, which we'll get to here in just a moment. But as far as Holly goes, just kind of a lackluster performance, got in the money, didn't take it, it didn't stick around for very long. Now, before we move on from Holly, since we've got Brokerage Plus up, I did want to point out this fact. Check out down here in my Holly strategy panel, I've got mine pointed to moderate profit. It's showing after everything was said and done, risking $100, we lost $83.22 today on those 5 trades. Not a bad losing day in moderate mode, but I had the exact same settings here, risking 100 per trade, and you can see that my total is showing 103. And this is a good testament to slippage on 5 trades. The AI is showing just the gross values, $83.22 negative on 5 trades. But when we pile in slippage, where that's what basically this is, the difference between 103 and 83.22 is because you'll see that my prices are slightly higher on all the longs here. That's because our simulated mode, paper mode, does a really good job at marking the price, actually where the stock is, and that gives us a good representation of slippage. So on the slippage today, what do we have? 17, about 20 bucks slippage on 5 trades there, okay? So a good peek into how your potential performance on Holly would be impacted just by the slippage factor there. And since there weren't any short plays on the blotter today, we didn't have to worry about not getting filled due to a stock being hard to borrow, which is sometimes the case there. So before we move on, Parker, if you have a specific question about Holly, go ahead and let me know. And in the meantime, I'll just get a little water here. And Helena, I see your question here about historical performance for the AI. And you can pull up the history for the AI, but it's going to be limited to all the other windows history, approximately 64 trading day history. And we can always put the AI blotter on historical mode by right-clicking, accessing the history panel, and either looking at, today, previous trading day, or selecting any one of the past 64 trading days from this drop-down panel here. So not the past 12 months, but we can go back 2 months. Obviously, if you're a user, you can start archiving those results as well and creating a longer database. We also do track the AIs and update them monthly on performance there, and we can drop you a link for the 3 AIs performance towards the end of the webinar here if you'd like to take a look at those. All right, another AI question. Does Holly help with long-term investments or swing trades? Very good question that we get a lot here. Right now, the AI is only geared for intraday entries. Now, having said that, that does not mean that you can't find good swing trade candidates by consulting the daily, and then based on what you prefer to see on the daily, some Holly plays can end up being good swing plays. Now, Holly's not telling us that. We have to do that manually. Matter of fact, one of our buddies here at the firm, Sean McLaughlin, maintains a list of curated Holly plays. He'll go through every Holly play, size it up on the longer term, and he'll curate a list of what he believes to be good swing trade candidates that were generated by the AI. So if you're not following Sean on Twitter, you can do so. His handle is @ChicagoSean. Now, we do plan on creating a swing version of the AI, but it's still on the drawing board. Still have a few kinks to work out of that one. But the rumor in the dev department is eventually Holly 2.0 will be replaced, and that will be the swing module for the AI. And yes, that would be great. Ken, you can actually you can do that in your own trades, okay? So what I mean by that, and the question is, can I set Holly to stop after say 5 positions? Well, when we go to the Holly tab over here and we right click, you can see that all we have here are some very basic long and short order entry positions. And you can see here, I don't have a field to limit the number of trades. Whereas if it is a strategy that I've created, okay, you'll notice that the panel does allow us to limit the number of trades, but that functionality has not yet migrated over to the AI panel. Hopefully we'll be adding some of this functionality soon, but right now there's no way to tell the AI to stop after so many fills, orders, or executions. All right, so moving right along, let's go ahead and talk about, oh, and by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, or at least give a little bit of a mention to the compare count readings this morning, which I like to consult after the first 15 minutes today. Not that we had a huge move after the first 15 minutes, but if we look at this candle right here, that was the end of the 15 minutes. We took a little bit of a leg down and then just kind of popped on right up to daily highs and pretty much held the line all day, okay? Didn't really go bonkers on the SPY or the Q, but But the important part here is the market remains strong, and we did take a little gyration up from that lower point, which gives us confidence to say, you know what, the path of least resistance today is probably on the long side. We're not getting a whole lot of big moves, but it beats swimming upstream, which would have been, going short today. So not a bad little leading indicator of what might happen for the rest of the session being produced by those compare count windows today, or that compare count window, I should say. So now let's go ahead and talk about what I was getting at earlier. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, depending on if you're short, a lot of longs that were up nicely that peeled over and ended up coming back to the entry line, or maybe even going a little bit negative. But if we're talking about the stocks with high volume, which when I'm talking about high volume, I'm talking about these two windows right here. Now, this guy right here actually would have been a better counter signal today, because if we did take the time to scroll through a lot of these things, when we were getting these stocks hitting daily lows today, they were pretty close to turning and heading back up the other way. Seemed to be the theme for the day. But not this guy right here on the right side of the market where things are tending to go up. This little guy lit it up pretty well today, and even spit out more high quality patterns and more big movers than I've seen from it on any given day in the past week. This one spit out, I believe, 6 pretty high quality patterns today. So I'll be sure and share these windows with you guys before we're done here today. But let's take a look at some of the plays that came out today. And we're just going to be talking about a very simple trading pattern here. Doesn't matter if you're brand new or highly seasoned. This is a very simple pattern, an opening range breakout. Not really a lot to be had on the shorts today, nil there. But on the longs, some interesting action here. And so let's take a look. First one coming out about just a little after 30 minutes into the market was this BYFC. Let's go ahead and take a look at the volume here. How did it finish today? Well, 13.34 on the relative volume side, whereas the tracking ETFs had some high volumes today, but after a short amount of time, all the smaller time frames went to sleep pretty early. Relative volume finally getting back down to almost normal on the SPY, but not the case with BYFC here. So check it out here. After about 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, about 30 minutes in, we get this nice push to highs here with accelerated volume, and we get some nice continuation here. So nice tight risk area down here. We could probably shove that in 2.5, 3 times there. But from that entry signal there, right about $1.78, actually from the alert window, it was right at $1.80, and pushing on up to a high there, $2.33. So about a 29% move in BYFC from the time of the entry here, with a pretty acceptable risk level as BYFC hit that 30-minute opening range breakout there. Next on the list, LAC. Now, this one wasn't anything to write home about, but I found it interesting because it showed up on my high volume ticker, and then approximately 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, about 30 minutes later, you see how the AI is hogging up the arrows here. This is where I saw it come across my ticker with a risk level. Let's see, prior 15 minutes would have been the bottom of this candle right here. So not bad, but here's the deal. Let's say we buy this breakout, we get up in the money a little bit, popping right up to this area right here where the red line is, acting as that short-term resistance level, and we get that little pullback, all right? And then we see Holly jumping on the bandwagon here. So a little bit over halfway through the stop area that I designated right here, thinking, well, maybe this one's gonna work, maybe it's not, it's 50-50 right now, we gotta see what happens. And then boom, Holly, the AI, jumps in and says, hey, I also think this is a good buy based on my statistical analysis. Give you some confidence to stay in that trade. And of course, sideways for quite some time before finally the buyers take control here, driving the LAC up to, what do we top out here? Right about 11.15. So not a bad move if you could have stayed in it, which both stop areas did not get penetrated. So just a little patience here. First coming through my high volume ticker, then Holly signaling it later. So if we, that's pretty much the same area, price area. So from 1016 topping out at 1115, not quite a point, not a bad percentage, but you had to be extremely patient before this one took hold today. So interesting, not a double signal from Holly, but coming through one of my favorite windows and then seeing the AI signal it later, that's definitely a confidence builder there to stay in the trade. That is correct, Jim. All the plays that we're talking about right here, this little window right here was producing them today. And I will share that with you guys before the end of the session here. And Dan, I see your question coming through on the integration with E-Trade. I'm assuming you're talking about Brokerage Plus. E-Trade is also in development. It just seems that Ameritrade seems to be moving along a little bit quicker than E-Trade, but we still plan on integrating E-Trade. But word on the street is Ameritrade might make it first. All right, so moving right along there, that was a good signal that was repeated by Holly. AGS, look at this little guy, nice and tight right here. This signal coming about 40 minutes into the open. Nice green candle, little pull down here, and then within 5, 10, 15, about 35 minutes more, we're retesting that high and popping through. Get the signal right here, coinciding with the blue arrow, right about the 378 level. Looking at my window here, it was 379 on the dot. No pain in this one, right? Risk area right here. Never acted like it was going to go visit it. And, you know, the thing that everybody likes here, a little immediate gratification to the tune of about 8.4% at the top of the level there before kind of basing out into the close. So another very high quality pattern, nice and tight there on AGS. Not quite lighting it up as much as some of the other ones were, but hey, 3.57 on a finish on relative volume, that's definitely strong because this stock usually only kicks out, what do we got here, about 373,000, almost kicking out 1 million today for that little stock. So might be sleepy most of the time, but today it was very active and very liquid. Yeah, Jim, we can do that here towards the end. Let's talk about Fly. Another nice little tight pattern here. Breaking its high right there about 45 minutes in. And if we look back 15 minutes to assess risk, we're talking about 5, 10, 15. That's why you're seeing the line up perfectly with that little wick right there. All right, so a very small risk area and a nice push through here. So once again, these smaller stocks still managing to kick out some pretty interesting return levels here, because from the point that this one broke out, we got 11.4% of profit potential up here at the wick there. This one held up pretty good. Of course, common theme today, a lot of these stocks giving back a little bit going into the close. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 with Fly, and let's keep on moving here. This little guy right here, not too bad as well. INO, not looking like a huge move here, but it's all about percentages. Really nice tight little pattern here. Very small risk area coming through the ticker right about here at the $12 and $12.05 area. Once again, not a lot of pain in this trade and just marching up a quick 14.9%. But check out what happened if you didn't take the profits or you tried to hold on for more. Keeping, you know, with the theme of the day, it was up nicely, but the buyers went away, sellers took control. So some big moves coming through these windows, some very big percentage gains on these smaller dollar stocks. When's it going to stop? Nobody knows. But as far as the volume goes, this is where the volume has been as of late, and it seems to be the case with the beginning of this week as well. So not a bad percentage move in INO there as well. And lastly, a repeat offender. Okay, this guy was coming through last week. Heck, we saw some good action last 2 days of last week, and this guy making an appearance yet once again today. Probably the biggest mover of the day, finishing 71% up on the day. Pretty massive relative volume levels here, finishing at 62 times, kicking out 12 million shares. When this little guy usually only kicks out a little over 600,000 today. But what a beautiful entry right here. Just this first move up to this peak right here was 22%. Thing bases out, goes sideways for most of the day, breaks its high here, gives one little pullback before it's off to the races here. So 22% in this first little move, then tacks on another 30% over here towards the end of the day. So this little area right here, depending on how aggressive you were and how closely you were keeping your fingers on the pulse of this one, a great add opportunity here for a pretty substantial move in the last half of the day there. Okay, see a couple more questions popping in here. Is it possible to send me a link for how to set up the platform? Well, we've got some nice videos, Sal, on our YouTube channel. I think Steve probably just dropped some of those links into your answer there. So TI University is what came to mind. We got a really nice 4-part series, yeah. So
yes,
watch those first two, and you'll definitely enhance your knowledge of how to get over that learning curve sooner than later. All right, Parker, just backing up to your question here. Right, and if you're referring to the AI strats there, Parker, then all of the things appear on the charts, right? So when we click on an AI symbol, you'll be given the entry price, where the stock currently is, along with any stop variables as well. So it should be pretty easy for you to follow along there. All right, so now what I'd like to do is kind of go back and revisit a top list that I handed out last Monday, the 200-day hey top list, because it's produced some pretty interesting stuff. This is the top list here. What we're going to do is kind of go back and look at the action. And I think I've got mine set to Thursday here. Let me just double check. Yeah, so going back to Thursday, which is the 24th, and just seeing if we take a look at some of these stocks that are in the, I'd say the 0.0 value, anywhere from the minus 0.1 value, which is 0.1% below the 200-day, 0 being right at the 200-day, and of course a positive value being either 1/10 or 0.2% above the SMA. But the bottom line is we were trying to find stocks, or still trying to find stocks with this top list that are right on their 200-day, seeing how they close, or extrapolating how we think they might close, say looking at the last 15, 10, 5 minutes of the market and seeing if we might want to, take a position and make those a swing trade. So keep in mind, we're going to be looking at Thursday. So today we have Monday, Friday, and then this little wiki candle here would have been Thursday. So here we are looking at the last 5 minutes on Thursday, and we see AQN took a little swoon down, but the sellers could not keep control, and the buyers take it right back up, and we get a close right at that 200-day moving average. Okay, notice what the action was doing down here around the 50s too. We got wicks down here, we got a wick to the 50 here, we got almost a wick to the 50 here, and then close proximity to the 200-day. So based on the action that we've seen, how it's behaving around this moving average, could have easily made the call, hey, this looks pretty good, maybe I'll take a chance on it with a swing trade, make an entry here, then you get Friday, and then you get, of course, the gap up and sympathy, which is what a lot of stocks did today. Got drug up, some gave it back, some did not. But just a very simplistic way to start sizing these guys up, and this is the way that I would recommend using the stop list, is just scan it in the ending 5 minutes based on what's unfolded in the market. See, stocks butting up to some nice resistance levels, coinciding with the 200 period, could produce some pretty decent plays for you. So let's just kind of keep on perusing the list here. EVR, let's see. This one, throwing a little bit of a wiggle here, this day right here being Thursday, but based on our stop loss area that we might have used, my eyes would have been drawn to this level right down here where we see the red dotted line. A little bit of a pain day, closing on a doji, but then getting the gap going back through today as well. ADI, not too bad. Thursday being this day right here, little green action, success on Friday, and then the sympathy gap today as well. AEE, Thursday right here where the pink dot is, we get the close above, we get a nice Friday, and then we get the sympathy gap up today. So once again, not a lot of rocket science here. Okay, here's one that's not working too well. Of course, they're not all going to work, but this is designed to give us, ideas on a stock that's hugging its 200-day. But then we have to plug in the other part, which Steve likes to say, look to the left, see if we can see an area that might act as good resistance, or excuse me, good support level. And if we were doing that on ACIA on Thursday, I mean, look, is there anything that just jumps out and looks nice and even or easily identifiable? Not so much on this one. I mean, it's a wild little stock. All right, a little bit different of a story here on YEXT. Clearly going back to these levels here, potentially acting as support. On Thursday, we got the close right at the 200-day. We got the update on Friday, and of course, a little sympathy play today. Looks like it might have given it back as well. But the bottom line is this. You just scan this guy in the last 5, 10, 15 minutes. Is it bumping up against proper support or bumping against what might act as proper support? How's it acting around the 200-day? And, are we able to accept the risk in hopes that this thing is going to bounce off of the 200-day? And as Steve was pointing out earlier, sometimes the most obvious things don't happen. Every day that this market moves back up, we reclaim the 10 period today. Maybe this doesn't come into play, but there are still plenty of stocks out there. And as I was talking about last Monday, you never know. Are these stocks leading the pack and the whole market's going to go down here and do a little 200-day kissy kiss? Or are these stocks simply getting ahead of themselves? And so thus far, it seems like these stocks were just maybe getting ahead of themselves. And most of them are taking some nice bounces off that 200-day moving average. So just keep in mind, I'll drop this window again into the chat panel, and maybe you'd like a 50-day top list when once you get this list. If you want to create a 50-day or a 20-day or any of the other moving averages, all you'll have to do is go in there and add the proper moving average and pretty much use the exact same settings that you see here for the min max values. Of course, you can always make it a little tighter or a little looser if that's what you like. Matter of fact, had a user last week request a trade or crossing, coming close to crossing, and you can do that as well. All right, so before I forget here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop both of these high volume windows for the up and the downside, because you never know, tomorrow might have more upside, but then again, we might have downside. So it's good to be prepared. All right, so there's one, there's two. Let me make sure this guy is back on real time. And then I'll share this one out as well. Okay, so all three of those windows have now been deposited into the chat panel. And let's see, any questions that I need to backtrack on, Steve, here?
If you're asking me, no, I think we're good.
Okay, all right, just do a little time check here. All right, ladies and gents, we
Noah
got
is
about
asking about a Mac. You can let Noah know about the Mac issues, options, I mean.
I'm sorry, what question, Steve?
Does this work on a Mac? The options available.
Okay. Well, the client here, it is possible to function on a Mac, but the catch is you have to be running a Windows emulator like Parallels. So if you can run Windows currently on your Mac, yes, you can. If you don't want to go jump through all the hoops to install Windows on your Mac so that you can run, Windows applications alongside your Mac operating system, the only alternative would be to use our web version. Okay. Now, there is one other option, renting an Amazon web server, which is basically just renting a cloud PC that you can log into. That is another relatively inexpensive option. Don't quote me on the price, but it's relatively inexpensive. I don't even want to throw a number out there, but that does give you another alternative to running the PC client if you have a Mac and you don't want to jump through all the parallel hoops and all that good stuff. Okay, so we do have a little bit of time here, so this would be a good time for any additional questions, or maybe you guys would like to throw up a symbol, have Steve and I take a look at the chart. All right, Edwin, I'm taking it that is a Shopify, right? Okay, well, let's take a peek here. Well, kind of a few more up days. Looks a little bit different than some of the patterns that I'm seeing here. Shop obviously never getting down to its 200-day. Caught some bids right here at this area that acted as support. It was going to be potentially acting as support, but it actually did act as support. About 1, 2, 3, 4 days straight up. Now we're looking at doji green and another doji day. So the shop's looking pretty strong, but it's getting up to this little area right here, which could very well act as some overhead supply. So tomorrow will kind of tell us, you know, if shop has any oomph in it. How was the volume today? Looks like it was normal on the relative side. Earnings aren't in play till November 3rd. Steve, anything to add on the shop chart here?
Well, it's under pressure under all the moving averages, just like the major market. And whoever's asking about SPY, I talked about that earlier. They just need to get a couple more days closing above those moving averages, and they'll be back in play.
Yeah, and the 50, the pink is the 50 up here. So we got the little 20, 50 period sandwich there. Okay, TME. Yeah, not quite visiting the 200-day. Looks very similar in the sense that it did find a little bit of support down here. Didn't quite get all the way down there on that on Friday, and just kind of you know, next big question is, can it reclaim the 10 period? And once again, we have all these converging moving averages that will soon be in play. And David, yes, we do have a head and shoulders alert, I do believe.
It's only going to be on a 15-minute time frame, though.
That is true. You know, once again, many of the alerts with NTI and the filters were designed to run intraday time frames. So even though we have head and shoulders, it's not going to be looking at the longer time frames. All right, Piton has definitely been one of the darlings since everybody's trapped at home and using the Peloton bike, but not too far away. Tell you what, I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is ATH, but just want to kind of briefly take a look at the weekly there. I mean, when you look at the weekly on Piton, that's a strong stock. That is a strong stock, and just kind of meandering around all-time highs. And hold on, get back to daily here. I mean, 10 period still the guiding hand here, even on the daily, Steve. So until we get a close below that 10 period, I mean, Piton is looking strong here. I mean, maybe we get a little sideways action. Maybe we come down here and test the 10 period, but it looks, you know, with the exception of this day, that 10 period's been holding it up as of late. Anything to add on that one, Steve?
No, it's just in total. That one's totally intact. It's just big volatile candles back and forth right now. So
have you noticed this one on the A table chart?
It's been on the A table for a while. Yeah. Doc, what is the short float? Oh yeah, it's still on there at 17%.
Right. Yep. 17.72. That is correct.
I'm staring at it right now. Yep.
Piton. Saga is the symbol. Saga. I didn't think I recognized that symbol. SAGA?
No, it's not coming up.
Right. So maybe Osama. Okay. Sava?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, Sava.
Certainly in play, very volatile, but it's above all its key averages.
Yeah, and you know, just poking its head above. I mean,
Watch what it does at the 10-day moving average. If it
Just saw the
closes below,
sciences, yep. Pharmaceuticals, no big surprise that we see a chart of that nature. But once again, you know, strong, strong, strong until we see the 10 period lose control. This one looks intact as well. All right, here, let's take a look at ZM or Zoom, being one of the darlings of the COVID era here. Once again, well above the moving averages. All-time high was just right back here. Looking like it wants to go sideways for a little bit. Maybe go attack this all-time high pretty soon here. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a little ebb and flow moving forward on the daily until it decides, well, we go down here and test the 10, or we're going to go up here and test the all-time high. Not bad volume in it today, about 50% above normal. Once again, a company that has just reinvented video conferencing and messaging. So, hey, more power to them. Yeah, David, Steve and I were just commenting on the Head and Shoulders alert that is present within TI, but it's going to be based around the 15-minute time frame. So if you're looking for Head and Shoulders patterns outside of the intraday, nothing for that, just for the intraday. All right, ladies and gents, we're just about out of time today. So I want to thank everybody for popping in. Scott, if you're ready to let everybody know how they can save a little bit of money with the new coupon codes, or whether it's a new subscription or an upgrade, I do believe it is that time.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of the items to review on the way out is we do have a new ebook on earnings season. Why don't you go ahead and grab that? It's free. It helps you take advantage of earnings season. It has some strategies that you can upload via the cloud link into your layout. Just go to trade-ideas.com/earnings to grab that free ebook. There's a podcast. We've got some great interviews that we've released this year. You should check it out. Search for Trade Ideas Podcast in your favorite app and hit subscribe so that you pick up the next fresh one when we launch the next episode. There's a code, Fall Savings, all caps, and it saves you 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas or your upgrade. So grab that code and use it. QuantBot is Jamie's Twitter handle. Steve Gomez can be found on Twitter at TodayTrader. Also look for Trade Ideas handle. Facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro is the Facebook page to like and share with your friends. And if you have any questions at all, email us at info@trade-ideas.com. It goes into our help desk software and gets you the support that you need. Thank you all. We'll have the recording up later on tonight or tomorrow, and shoot you an email from GoToWebinar with a reminder of how to find it tomorrow. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, and Steve. Have a good one.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everybody, for popping in. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.